Welcome, Heather. It's a pleasure to have you today. Would you mind starting by telling us just a little bit about yourself and what you do and what makes you tick?
Sure. Heather Leffler. I am a user researcher for Kroger Digital. Been with Kroger for almost 15 years. And in that 15 years, I have been a part of digital even before we were officially called digital. So I've been around and seen Kroger Digital really grow up to be what it is today, which has been really exciting. What makes me tick is user research, and accessibility, which I think is why I now have those roles at Kroger. I spend many years kind of yelling and screaming like, we need to talk to customers, we need to figure out what they want. When you have different leadership members throwing stuff at you, we need to go build this, like right now, go build this, go build that. And it's like, well, step back a second. What do our customers want? What do they need? What are their pain points? How can we meet them where they really need us? And so about a year ago, they actually started a research team and I was asked to join. And I wish I could have thrown a party because it was like my dream job focusing on research. So that's what I've been doing ever since. I've been an accessibility point of contact for Kroger really off and on, probably 5-6 years. And kind of like research, I kind of vocalized a lot about we need to make sure we're accessible. And so when legal came down and said, hey guys, are we accessible? My name just kind of was thrown in the hat. So I've been kind of leading that charge as well. It's for 2020, it kind of was more of a side of the desk thing than I would have liked, but that was just because such a crazy year. We had so much research to do. I just didn't have as much time to put into that as I would have liked. As far as my specific research responsibilities, what I focus on is more the holistic usability of Kroger, whether that be the website or the app. So we have all these product teams kind of designing, I don't want to say silos, but sometimes because they work so fast, there's not a lot of connecting the dots while they're just kind of quickly building. So we want to make sure that as we're throwing out all these new features on the site and on the app, at the end, when you as a customer come to place an order or to look for your coupons or whatever it is that you're doing, that it's all cohesive and clear and easy to understand and easy to use, easy to find. So we, for a little over a year now, we've been doing something that we call a quarterly holistic usability test, which is a really big one. We test the app and the site, and we get 10-ish people to go through the site end to end. We have them place an order, get all the way to checkout step 2. Just kind of look for, observe anything that they might be having issues with, the things that they like, the things that they don't like, even down to content. Do you like these images and how they're laid out on the screen, how they're designed? Do you like what it looks like? It's been really fun. And so as a research team, our goal is to really help all of our teams, designers, developers, product managers, everyone, the business leaders, understand our customers and understand how they're using our site, why they're using it, what their pain points are, what their day-to-day lives are like, and how we can help those day-to-day lives be better. So that's, for us, it's all about building that empathy, helping teams just really understand our customers. And that's been the best year and the worst year for me ever. So that's a little bit about me. Any questions, any topics you want to talk about?
I love it. I love that I'm learning stuff as you're talking about it, because that tells you a little bit about how big Kroger is.
I know.
Don't be shy.
I know. I'm like
she said, Heather likes
keep going.
Yeah.
So Heather, I'll hop in with a question real quick. So you had mentioned that you're really passionate about getting in front of users or people that are using the service or the product. And it sounded like you were facing some barriers in that happening. Have you seen that happen? Have they moved to more interviewing or researching some of the users? And if so, how'd you get over that hurdle?
Yeah, so over my almost 15 years, for many years, we just didn't have the time. It was waterfall back before we started Agile, and there was no time. You'd bring it up like, hey, it'd be really great if we could talk to people and see what they think, and there just wasn't the time for it. Especially for many years, I was like a one-person designer doing everything on digital. It was not fun. And then as we've grown over time, once we started growing, we got a VP, Jody Humbach she came in, and she was like very adamant about talking to her customers. So we kind of started with what we call guerrilla research, which is like cheap, as quick and as you can get it. You just kind of however you can find. So we would contact friends and family. We'd walk into the store and just be like, hey, can you talk? Michael, I think you attended some of those with us.
I remember the day we went to the store and we just like set up a table and we're like, hey, talk to us. You can get a gift card.
Yeah, we'll give you a gift card if you like talk to us for 15, 20 minutes.
Right.
And really what that helped us do, even like that guerrilla style, like super cheap, felt kind of glued together with glue sticks and toothpicks, but that helped us kind of start. That kind of helped us start showing the value of that customer feedback, right? Like especially early on, because the earlier you can get that feedback versus spending all this time building something and then finding out like, oh, that's not what our customers were looking for. This isn't really tackling their main problems right now. So with that, once we kind of sold the value there, we were able to get, it's a tool called UserZoom. It's where you can do like unmoderated testing, and it's pretty cheap, really quick to do. There's still, as a researcher, and while I've been involved in research many years, the last year, little over a year, is when I've actually been like responsible for it. So I'm still kind of learning like the right ways to ask questions, because you don't want to lead people. When we go into research, I think your first instinct is to try to prove your design. And you don't want to just prove your design. Like, okay, I built this thing, I think it's awesome, I'm going to ask questions to make sure I'm getting the answers that I want. So, we're trying to teach the teams, be really careful with that. But UserZoom allowed us to do a lot of really quick unmoderated testing. Unmoderated testing is really cool. It's really quick. Like you can do it in a few hours, and you can talk to 15 people for a usability test, or even like 150 people for a survey. But what you'll find is you're not really getting into like the deep, like human aspects of the people taking the test, where when you sit down one-on-one, whether it's in person or remote, you can have like pre-interview questions. You really get to like know the person and understand their mentality and what they're thinking and doing before they get in. So we started doing some of that with like a very small budget. And then again, once they start kind of seeing the value and how, especially when we were doing that type of research before project teams were starting that development process, and it really helped the teams prioritize. We're always going to have MVPs, and as designers and researchers, sometimes it hurts us a little bit, but we know that has to happen. But how do we prioritize the right features that will make the biggest impact for that MVP? And so with that value, essentially leadership was seeing that value, and they were like, we need a research team. And I was like, yeah, we do. And like I said, that was about a year ago. So we've got Chris Cravens, who in my opinion is like a world-renowned researcher, and I get to work for her. So she teaches me a lot. She's been a fantastic supporter of research and really helping us kind of get going. And we're really, because our teams are agile. You guys probably know 8451, they're a data company. They have lots of research. They can do lots of things, but traditionally when we would ask for something from them, it would be 6 to 9 months later, we'd get like, oh, here's what we found. It's like, oh, well, we already built that thing, so we don't really need it anymore. That was, while it's great insights, it wasn't helping us in the moment. So on the Kroger side, we really strive to be quick and agile. So a team will come to us and say, hey, I'm looking, like recently, we're really trying to figure out shopping lists. So it's like, hey, I need to learn about shopping lists. Can you help me with the test? I sure can. We're going to get that test live by the end of January. We'll have insights within a week. So it's like, 2 to 4 weeks for most typical tests that we can run for teams, which has just been fantastic. So that way, going into whatever the new shopping list experience is, we'll have those insights from actual customers. So did that answer your question? Michael disappeared. Anything else? I mean, I could talk about so many different things.
What are some of the most common feedback or complaints you get when you do these testings?
Oddly enough, shopping list is a big one. We have the old add to cart and shopping list together. It's not clear. And so I can tell you historically, we had shopping lists from like many, many years ago when we didn't have e-com. So when we built ClickList, as it was called back in the day, there was this big debate over whether or not you like change add to list to add to cart or have both. So they kept both, and it causes a lot of confusion. People don't know which they should be using, or if so people will start adding the list from like weekly ad or whatever. Then when you go into your shopping list, there's a lot of issues with how do I get my list to like a pickup order, and what is kind of the point of the list? No one really knows. I have an idea. I hear a lot of like, I just want to find the things that I need. I don't want to yet think about how I'm getting it, because it kind of depends on my day and my week. If I'm out and about, I'm going to swing in the store. If I'm busy and my kids have a lot going on, I'm going to schedule a pickup order. If I get COVID, I'm going to probably have it delivered, or maybe not need to eat at all. I don't know. But so that kind of how you get it is not as important to customers up front, which is why a lot of what I see is even our like really heavily e-com customers, they use shopping lists and then they get very confused. That's a big one. And I think the one thing I hear over and over, and I've heard it before I was on the research team, is why can't I load all the coupons to my cart? I just want to load them all. I don't want to think about it. And while I love the idea, there are legal CPG reasons that we can't do that. So we have, I'd say over the last year and a half, like tried to make coupons super easy. Like if you're just looking at a product, you can see like, oh, it has a coupon, let me click to load it. But I hear that all the time. Like, don't make me look for them, just auto load them. And I'm like, that's a great idea. So.
Wish we could do that. I love the history that you have, Heather, because that's awesome, because you can kind of talk through the whole product life cycle. Like first we had this and then we had that, and that's why we still have this problem. Isn't that fun?
Yeah, to this day I still have people will come and ask me like, why do we have this here? Or why is the add coupon button color different than the add to cart button? And I'll be like, well, interesting story. Usually not that interesting, but yeah, I do have a lot of. When I first started at Kroger, we did our like first redesign, and the site that it was before I came in was just like a page that basically just said, this is Kroger, you can buy food here. It didn't have like, you couldn't create an account. There were no products available on it at all. Back in those days when we started talking about online grocery shopping, the executives laughed like, no one wants to buy groceries online. What is wrong with you people? Why would you think that that's a thing? And here we are, and people clearly do like to buy their groceries. I do. I have enjoyed it since day one, especially during COVID. When COVID hit and you had people who, and I research people who say they love grocery shopping. And I'm always like, God, I wish that was me. I hate grocery shopping. I hate it so much. But people do, especially like older people. It's how they get out and like do stuff and stay active. And they like touching their produce and like picking out the foods and looking for sales and deals. But when COVID hit, and so many people just really didn't feel safe, what an impact we had in doing the holistic testing I've done. So the Q3 testing, so lost on time. Q1
Time
or
has no meaning.
Q2, I know, Q2 testing of last year, I finished on the Friday that they closed like all the schools down. And that weekend was when they like basically started shutting everything down. And so during those sessions, you heard a lot of like fear of, you know, I'm trying to find cold and flu stuff, and man, you guys have been amazing. I've been able to order it online where because I couldn't find it anywhere. And a lot of people were nervous about it. And then the next holistic testing, everyone was in quarantine. And so it was really cool to kind of hear the different stories and mindsets, and a lot of people who, you know, had underlying health issues who just couldn't go into the store, and a lot of them still aren't. And then there were the people who did it because they were quarantined and they kind of had to, but now they're like, I'm sold. Like if it stays free, I will never stop doing it. I never knew how much I would like this. So it was an impactful thing on so many different levels, but it was really fun. Who could have predicted 2020? I would never have guessed how 2020 played out, but it was very interesting to kind of see that progression. And so for me as a researcher, I'm kind of trying to look ahead throughout 2021. Like right now, the numbers still look really bad, but we know the vaccine is here. We got to get that out. You know, how do we kind of keep reeling people in or keep them in e-commerce as things kind of start to return back to normal a little bit?
I'd be kind of curious to hear, you know, when I think about my mom who spent an hour a week cutting coupons out of the newspaper and going to the store and manually doing everything versus like people younger than me, they're just like pick up the phone, click, 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 click. My groceries are outside. You know, do you find it's hard to balance as, you know, like the technology side of a grocery store, trying to say like, well, these people don't want to use much of it or they don't know how to use it versus the people that are just like, my groceries are magic. I don't even know what a grocery store is.
One fantastic comment, because this is a struggle I've had really since I started design at Kroger. Trying to, you know, a lot of times if you're designing for a niche product, you know exactly who your customer is. When you're selling groceries, literally everybody buys groceries, from my 21-year-old daughter, 22 now, she's 22 now, my 22-year-old daughter to my, you know, 85-year-old grandma. They all need food. And so especially when the pandemic hit and you had a lot of seniors who were kind of forced into figure out e-commerce. And I talk to, anytime I do testing, we really try to get a broad variety of race, age, income, so that we're really talking to a little bit of everyone. But the senior group is always my favorite because they'll talk about how easy, like, I love Kroger, it's the easiest site to use, you guys have saved my life. And then you watch them use it and you think, if you think this is easy, I feel so bad for you. And, you know, they'll even say like, well, it took me a while to learn. And so as designers at Kroger, it is really tough because, you know, we want to, how do we capture the millennials? Like millennials right now are mostly going to other places. How do we capture them and make Kroger exciting for them? But we can't forget about our seniors and our middle-aged moms who are really busy. So yeah, it's a tough question. You're absolutely right. That is something that, and designers specifically, especially our younger designers who want to use trendy design patterns. And it's like, I know that's cool, but we got to make sure it's understandable and findable for all of our customers, and accessibility fits right in to that topic as well. Like I want to have a really slick looking app or site, but I want to make sure that everyone can go and buy groceries from Kroger, not just the tech savvy people. And that to me is where research is even more important, because us as in the industry, like, yeah, it's easy to use. Of course, I know how to do this. And then you watch, you know, real people attempt to do something and you're like, oh, wow, that did not work how I expected. So we learn a lot of things. One of my biggest things that I've been trying to kind of grow and do better at is making my insights truly actionable, so that teams have a list of whether it's pain points, ideas, usability issues, like, and I don't want to tell teams necessarily how to fix it. I just want to show like, hey, this is, and what I do is I keep a spreadsheet of each quarter's test and I track all of the issues that I observed. And I do go back to look, because if it's like one person out of 12 people, I might write a note about it and kind of keep an eye on it, but I won't necessarily flag that to teams. But with the trend of doing this usability testing every single quarter, I can actually go back to all the other quarters and kind of track like, hey, this has been an issue since the very first test that we ran. So someone needs to kind of take a look at this and figure out. And the same with accessibility. If I find a problem, I don't ever want to tell the teams how to fix it. I want them to have that creativity to kind of, and empowerment to go and figure out, okay, here's the problem, what's the best way to handle it?
And I was curious if there was any research done on usability among people with disabilities, because I've heard that some screen like brightness can cause seizures, which, you know, I feel horrible, but if you could talk about that.
Yeah, so interestingly enough, for a couple of years before 2020, we had a partnership with Wright State University. And because of their flat one-level campus, they've like traditionally have a large population of blind students. So we did go up there quite often back in the day and actually do usability testing with screen reader with some of these students. Our last session with them was October of 2019. And at that time, they didn't have a large population of blind students for that particular semester for whatever reason. And then the pandemic hit. So we did do an audit last year. So we got the audit done, which is just very like technical, right? Like here's a list of all the things according, and they do, the audit includes kind of, they're going to look at the WCAG guidelines and see like, here's where you didn't hit those. But then they also do like a usability test, which is like, okay, here's the areas where, yeah, you might be adhering to the guidelines, but it's not usable. It's not user friendly. And so we kind of took all that report and handed it off to teams and worked with them on fixing it. Hoping in 2021 that we can get some more actual like one-on-one usability testing with actual people. But to your point, because you talked about screen brightness, accessibility, while blindness and the screen reader is a big part of it, it's a whole lot more than that. To your point, too much brightness, too much moving, too much text that's not laid out properly can cause all kinds of cognitive abilities, seizures, all kinds of different things. Even just, you know, when I do usability testing, you'll get someone on a phone, if they have their font zoomed in because they're older or they have a visual problem, you'll see our app does not handle it well. Everything's cut off. It looks terrible. I've sent a note to the teams like, hey, we've got to work on our font sizing. And from a WCAG guideline standpoint, I think that you're supposed to allow them to expand text up to 200% without it breaking the experience. And it's a little bit hard to test for that. I guess I'm not a tester, so I shouldn't, I guess, randomly throw that out. But it seems like it's hard to test for. I have a hard time testing for it. But yeah, there's a lot of different aspects to accessibility. One of my biggest hopes and dreams for Kroger is that one day they'll actually have an accessibility team who really is like 100% focused on accessibility. Doesn't have to be a big team. But right now it's me and then a few people who are just really passionate about it and have learned about it. And we kind of meet once a month, I think it is, and just talk about different ways, different training we can do. I do work with like our customer support team. Any calls that they get about accessibility come directly to me. And then I work with the teams. Yeah, it's a great question though.
So next week's featured guest, Gerald Fulham, is also an accessibility advocate, which I think is pretty awesome.
Yeah, he's awesome. He has helped me so many times with some of the more technical aspects of accessibility because I am not a developer. So sometimes I'm like, I don't know what this means. Help me. Yeah, he's great. Any other topics? I mean, we can talk about the weather. It's not too great out right now.
It's supposed to
That's the
snow this weekend, I think.
I heard that.
We've been hitting perfect north. It's awesome. Maybe any other skiers or snowboarders? Nobody?
No, I stay away from snow as much as possible.
Fair. For me, it's just a really fantastic activity for the winter when a lot of things are just, it's like, well, a lot of things aren't as fun when it's cold
Yeah.
out, but I'll tell you what is fun and you can really only do in the winter, skiing and snowboarding. It's a lot of
Yeah.
fun.
I went tubing there once many years ago. I'm afraid of heights, so like it was terrifying. I did it, but I watched my ex and my oldest daughter ski and was like, no. I skied once when I was like 16 and I caused a pile up at the ski lift because I was afraid to get off.
It happens all the
Not
time.
for me, and I was like, can someone help me get down this hill without skiing? Because I was like, I don't want to do this.
It's not just you.
Oh, I don't like it.
My son is the ski or the snowboarder in my family,
Nice.
and he actually works in a ski shop here in town.
Which one?
Might be the only one. Vertical Drop.
I like Vertical Drop a lot. It's a nice
Yeah.
ski shop.
Yeah, he's been there for a few years. I keep telling him he should quit that job and go out to Colorado and go work at a ski resort.
Colorado or Alaska. My oldest daughter went to Alaska for 3 months to work, and she got to go skiing there. And she said she was sending me pictures. It was absolutely beautiful. Colorado has amazing skiing. I would just watch. I wouldn't like do anything. I'd sit by the fire and drink some hot cocoa or something.
Heather,
So fun, relaxing.
are there any are there any websites or books or resources that you would suggest for just more best practices in terms of UX UI? And just for a point of reference for me, I'm an aspiring career changer. I'm actually just started at Tech Elevator and so hoping to get a job soon in some form of web development or maybe testing or I don't know, but so I'm just looking for ways to learn to grow that skill a little bit.
So Jacob Nielsen is going to be like by far probably the best like industry standard, and it has research, it has design, best practices. I've got a whole list of books and websites somewhere. If you would want to send me your email address, I'd be happy to dig that up and find, and we could even talk a little bit about specific topics and point you in the right direction. There's so many good books, podcasts, but Jacob Nielsen is kind of the most official one that comes to my mind. And it's kind of the first place that we go as a UX designer or a researcher. That's kind of the first place that I go to.
I kind of have a question.
Yeah.
Have you heard of Userway?
Userway? No.
Yeah. It's like they have like an accessibility widget that you can add to your website. And I was kind of wondering if you had any opinion on stuff like that. Because they say that they give you full ADA and WCAG compliance.
Yeah.
And I know P&G uses it. So I was kind of wondering if you had any thoughts on that.
Yeah, that's a fantastic question. And I've had a couple of developers bring a couple of these tools to me over the last, I don't know, year or two. With 2020 working from home, I'm very confused on time, but and I've actually spoken with legal about this, and I've actually spoken with DeQ, who was our auditor company, about this, as well as a couple of other folks, because to me, it seems pretty sweet, right? Like you can just put this little widget plugin thing that would help like anybody be able to see and use your site. But there's this, the idea of like they want to use the same site as everyone else. Also, these companies are like guaranteeing complete like guideline, like meeting the guidelines 100%. And from a legal standpoint, I don't think there's any way that they likely can prove that. So we may still be held liable for any lawsuits that hit. But in general, like in the community, we don't want a special site. We don't want to have to click a link to go to like the accessible version of a site. because that it means you're kind of separating them from other people. And Jared Fulham has way better words for that, so you should ask him about it. But that's like the sentiment of it is like, yeah. So I think they're kind of neat. It's definitely something I think the industry should keep an eye on. Especially from like a color contrast, font sizing perspective, that kind of stuff. I don't, off the top of my head, I don't remember what they do from a screen reader perspective. And for if you look at the industry, most of the lawsuits that get claimed are generally around screen reader usage for blind people. And they, some of them are legitimate lawsuits for legitimate people. Some of them are just lawyers and firms out there that are just literally, they'll do quick audits with tools on people's websites just to see, and then they'll find a person and be like, hey, help me sue XYZ. So I know we have like a working group. So we have a department, it's business ethics and compliance, as well as legal. And we meet at least, I want to say it's monthly, to kind of talk about, hey, have we seen any new activity? Have we had any complaints? How can we address them? Kroger has a big legal team. So in general, so far, we've been safe. But to me, I've always told my leadership, it's a matter of when, not a matter of if. And so we need to be best prepared with processes. As long as you can kind of prove that you have a process, you do build for accessibility, you are attempting to meet the guidelines. I can show proof when I get a customer complaint. I send it straight to the teams. We put it, in our backlog, and they, depending on the level of the issue, sometimes if it's critical, like if it's stopping a user from being able to purchase groceries, it's like, hey, you guys have to stop what you're doing and fix this now. If it's lower, put it in your backlog and fix it when you can. But yeah, hopefully that answered your question. Anything else? You guys are all muted, and I feel like I'm just talking to myself now.
You're doing great, Heather. Thank you. I think
That's
it's all really
great
good
information.
stuff.
Awesome.
I can't believe you have a 22-year-old daughter, though.
I do have
that blew me away.
22-year-old and a 12-year-old. Yeah. My 22-year-old goes to OSU, and she was just talking to me about research last night, and I was like, I can help you with this. But thank you. That made my year. I mean, we're only in January, but I'll take it. This is fun. I would love to hear more about you guys and what you do. David, I heard a little bit from you. I'd love to hear more about you guys. Michael, I know you. Sarah, let's meet
Samuel, Samuel asked a question in the chat.
Oh, I don't have chat up. God, I'm really bad, guys.
Sorry, I'm on my phone, so I just wanted to type it out so it'd be easier to see. I was just asking about how A/B testing has kind of evolved at Kroger. For reference, I work in the in-stock program, so I'm very far outside of any user design, really the user experience of Kroger. But I've seen like the Abacus testing site, and I was curious how like that's changed from like doing it in person with like a focus group to using A/B testing to test little things.
Yeah, that's a great question. A/B testing has evolved. Well, one, we have A/B testing, and that was just like research. For many years, we were like advocating for research and A/B testing. And I love A/B testing. And a lot of times what you see come out of my research is like, hey, there's a problem with this. My recommendation is to find a solution or two and A/B test to see which one works best. The way I see A/B testing, research, data, and even like our more like market research from like 8451 and that like deep data is they all work together. And so how can you use all of those, like call it a toolkit? Don't just stop at research, right? You go find some solutions that you think will like work best, and then A/B test it to really kind of decide like we nailed it, like this test is working.
I remember, Heather, one of our
question, but go ahead.
one of our very first interactions was on recipes when we were looking at adding more features to the recipe cards. And we came up with a couple different solutions. And this wasn't true A/B testing, obviously, but we did some user testing on it. And the one that we liked most actually went terribly. And they were like, so what do I do? I don't understand.
Yep. And that
They
went to
couldn't-
that kind of, I think Sarah talked about it earlier about like the tech savvy younger people and the older people.
Mhm.
And I really think it came down to like, we thought it was super cool because it was really trendy and neat. And it's like something social media uses, but then you put it in front of real users and like, no, I think one person was like, oh, this is cool. Everyone else like didn't even see it. And it was just like, okay, we lost this battle. That sucks.
At least we knew then. We were like, all right, well, let's not ship that one.
We at least went and checked. I mean, I remember telling Dylan at the time, like, I love it, but we've got to put this in front of people to see if they get it. It definitely looked the best though. Samuel, did that answer your question?
Yeah. I was just, that answered it.
Kind of. Hi,
No,
Mini Michael.
That was what I was looking for. I wanted to hear like how it kind of happened and like how it came together because I guess I was also kind of interested in a follow-up of like, has research pushing for A/B testing of features also helped in Kroger's sort of change towards more service-oriented stuff rather than old monolithic style things?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think I would honestly tell you today, research and A/B testing are a little bit disconnected from each other. So we, at the beginning of 2020, we actually had scheduled a meeting to kind of create a working relationship and collaboration with A/B testing to kind of get at that whole toolkit and make sure that we're using everything that we have. And then 2020 happened and it just kind of never got there, but it's something we've recently talked about too. And if you look at any of the decks that I put together to present to teams, it always mentions like, this is like one part of what you should be doing. Don't forget about your data, your A/B testing. You really gotta look at it all. So I think there's still some growth that could happen there. I think from a PD side, I think there's also maybe a little more strategy that we could be using with our A/B testing. I think today it's people just kind of throwing stuff at the wall because it's kind of a newish tool for us. I think as we evolve and mature a little bit with our different types of testing, we'll likely see some improvement in that space.
Yeah, thank you.
Sure. What else do you guys want to talk about?
Anybody got any uplifts, wins this week? Anything they want to like call out like, this is awesome, I got a job or something like that?
I got invited here, so that was pretty fun.
Like, that's just, can you beat that, right?
I mean, this has been great. I've really enjoyed it.
Good. Jessica, welcome. Jessica's also a Krogan.
A Krogan?
Yes. Yes.
Not a Krogerite.
So we had a discussion where we're looking to plan an internal we were starting to talk about an internal conference and we were like, but we need a name for ourselves, and then we were like, so Krogerite, Krogan. And then, I kind of was going for Krogan,
Krogan, I like it.
But everybody else was very solid on Krogan. And I'm like, all right.
You should put that in front of some other people. Take a vote.
I started to run it up the chain. Don't you worry. And we'll make sure to start to publicize.
This is like the GIF, like conversation. Right. And we all know who won that one. So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like a Krogan is one who crows.
Yeah.
I don't like Krogan. It's like when people
You
say
don't like it.
Kroger, it makes my ears bleed when I hear that. I never heard that in my life until I moved to Ohio. And I was sitting at work at a Kroger office and I kept hearing people say it around me. And I was like, what is happening? And I hear it in testing and I just have to, you know, because you don't want to laugh at people when you're interviewing them. So I just try to not say anything and just my ears kind of quietly like bleed where you can't see them. But I'm like, it's like, I don't know. You don't say I'm going
So
to
it's just, you're saying Kroger with the S.
Kroger's. Yes. I
Yeah.
gotta go to Kroger's, or you don't say
Yeah.
like going to Walmart's. Who says that?
Right.
Like, you know, Walgreens, there's an S on the end of it. That makes
Right.
sense. Lowe's, there's an S. You don't like, I'm not going to the Home Depots. Like, I don't know. It's just such a pet peeve of mine. I can't. I'm sorry if any of you say it. I know that it's like a local thing and you just grew up with it. I do not actually judge the people who say it. It hurts me.
I grew up with the "Let's go Krogering"
Yeah.
commercials.
Yeah.
With Marty and Joe, I think was the big thing back then.
I just know the little stickers that they still give out. I didn't grow up in Cincinnati. I'm an Army brat, so I grew up everywhere. And then I was in the Air Force, which is oddly enough how I started in design. It's somehow on my mid shifts working for the military, I learned how to use Photoshop and how to build websites back in the 90s.
What were you doing? Like, what was your position or?
I was a 3C03. I was a computer operator, worked in Intel. So I just sat there in a skiff for 8 hours, 12 hours at a time with like not much to do. So I would get on these old computers and be like, I want to learn how to build a website. I quickly learned that actually building the websites was not, like, my brain just did not work that way. And this was back in the day when code was probably like super simple, but my brain just did not. I'd spend, I don't know, I'd build some code and then like I'd spend 8 hours looking for like one character that I messed up and just want to cry. I quickly learned that wasn't for me, but yeah. Now you guys know even more about me.
That's kind of the goal.
So any interesting spots that you lived growing up?
Let's see. I was born in Colorado, but I only lived there for like 2.5 months. Then we moved to Germany. And according to the pictures, I'm pretty sure I would have loved it there. I did go back and visit. I took my oldest daughter over there many years ago and loved it over there. I love Europe in general. Then we moved to South Carolina. Then we moved to Missouri. I did not like Missouri. Then we moved to Fort Campbell, Kentucky. And that was like the end of my life as an Army brat. And my parents, like, they live in Bumpus Mills, Tennessee now. I still go back there. It's like 5 hours, so I'll go visit. And then somehow my ex and we were living in St. Louis from when we were in the Air Force, and we moved here long ago. And just kind of settled here. I think the people are really friendly here. It's very affordable. You have so many different things like driving distance that you can do here. Now I have an ex and a kid still in school, so I'm kind of stuck here for now.
Cool. Yeah. I moved here 4 years ago. So
From where?
From San Francisco.
Oh,
so,
California. I never got to live there. My ex lived there though, so I visited a lot.
Okay.
He was like an hour and a half from San Francisco.
South.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. So, but yeah, you're right. I love Cincinnati. It's totally become home.
Yeah, same. I mean,
You yearn for that San Francisco housing market.
Yeah, that's the thing with California. It's so expensive. I'm like, I can't afford to live there.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
I would love to live in like Portland or Seattle, like the Northwest. Portland, I think, is probably like I would fit in with those people. Maybe not. I don't know. I kind of just fit in wherever I need to, but I just think it's so pretty out there. But again, it's just too far away.
I did live in Seattle for a while.
Did you love it?
Back in it was beautiful, but the gray finally got to me. Portland, I think, is a little bit sunnier.
You know, oddly enough, every time I've been to Seattle, it's been sunny and beautiful. But everyone tells me that it just happens to be like I got lucky. But if you look at Cincinnati, if you compare the cloudy days, Cincinnati is not far behind Seattle, if you believe that.
Yeah, I mean, Seattle has like 300 cloudy days a year, and I think Cincinnati has like 200
it's
or
like
something like that.
220 or something like that. It's not like terribly far off.
No, but it does. I think the thing that's hard in Seattle is that in the winter, you don't get those random sunny days, whereas in Cincinnati, we do.
That's very true. The sunny days in the winter are probably what get me through the winter, like a reminder that it's coming, it will be back. Winter is my least favorite season when everything dies and it's too cold to do anything since I'm not a skier.
Funny enough, I'm from Washington, Seattle, and growing up, like, you know, you're just so used to it, you just don't know that it's gray and drizzly all the time. You just wear a hoodie when it rains, you know, it's not like crazy rainstorm we get here in Cincinnati, but yeah, it's just interesting. Now I go back and I can't stand it. It's just gray all the time.
That's so funny.
How long have you been in Cincinnati, Lisa?
Oh, I've been in Ohio for over 10 years, maybe nearing 15 now. So all my entire adult life, I've been here. But my family is still in Washington, and you know. Yeah.
It's so pretty up there. Visiting up there. I keep thinking I need to take another trip out there just to take in that beauty.
The summer's the best time, I think. Yeah.
I love the trees out there.
I know, it's just nothing like you see here. Just you can't compare it. We don't have trees like that.
The evergreens, yep.
Yeah, and the waterfalls like just everywhere. Well, mountains. We don't have those here either. Yeah. But
Ryan wants to tell everybody something. This is my son, Ryan. He's 9.
Michael.
So you wanted to tell them something, you said.
Today I went to the eye doctor and I got glasses.
Woohoo! Do you like that?
Woohoo!
Can be more like your dad now.
Yeah, and I thought glasses make me look smarter. They'll be ready tomorrow. And
that's so exciting.
Today was my first time ever in my life going there.
Really?
Uh-huh.
You've gotten so big. I'm sure you don't remember meeting me, but I have met you a couple of times. You don't even look like the same kid almost. You do. But you still look like your dad. He's like, you're lying to me, woman.
Thank you. I don't know if it's he feels complimented, but you know.
It is. You guys, like, even the hair. Like, do you guys work in the morning, like, together in the mirror?
Like, well, that hair is a little out of place, Dad. You got to get that one, you know. Well, you just put yours out of place and we'll be fine.
He's so cute. How old are you now, Michael? I mean, not Michael. You're not Michael.
The gentleman never tells.
Ryan.
Sorry.
How old are you, Ryan?
9.
9? You're 9 now?
Yes.
Turning 10 this year.
Yeah, that's how that works.
You're not turning 13 this year? He's so funny.
Ryan, do you go backpacking with your dad?
Sometimes we go to the father-son retreat, and sometimes we just go camping together.
We've not done any backpacking yet. That's a little advanced for him, I think, at this point. I try to introduce them to the camping, get him used to cooking on a stove, like, you know, get the tent thing under control. And then we can throw in the extra complexity of, guess what? We're going to carry it all on our back. You ready?
You ready? Yeah, that's good stuff.
It's like, you know, it's like teaching somebody to code. Like, you don't throw them into, well, have you considered all the potential security implications of the code you just wrote? You know, memory hardening. Yeah. It was funny talking to some of my coworkers today. They're like, you have so much context. I'm like, that's because I'm old. I'm just really old now. Sorry. Whoa, what was? Okay. Just breaking my stuff. That's all.
No.
He's like, that wasn't me. I didn't do it.
Jessica, I was going to ask you, did you work in the tech community in San Francisco?
I did, yeah. I was there for 5.5 years. I was only at one company while I was there. So, but yeah, it's a different world out there.
I bet.
I'll bet, yeah.
Yeah. It's pretty competitive, and, you know, there's like, as a woman, it was challenging to work in San Francisco because there is, you know, sort of the bro culture does exist out there.
Yeah.
Even in companies that aren't like, that's not the way the company is, it's hard to avoid it.
Yeah.
Whereas it, you know, coming, like, it's funny because if I hadn't experienced it, I would have thought, oh, you know, I might have more of that, like, stereotypically in the Midwest, but no, I mean, here, like, I feel like I'm treated like a human being and not like there's not this culture that's leaving me out.
That's so interesting because I
Absolutely.
get it, but like you said, I would have expected it to be a progressive city, very inclusive, but that now that you say it, I wonder if that startup culture, like the bro culture, has taken over and kind of displaced that. I don't have any context. It's just so interesting to hear you say that. I would not have expected it.
Yeah, there's a good book. I wish I could remember the name of it, that I listened to because I like to listen to nonfiction, but that talks about the toxic culture and, you know, some of the stuff that happens through VCs, and just I listened to it and I was like, oh my gosh, I'm so glad I didn't experience any of that stuff, because like my experience was mild compared to some of the stuff that you know, people experienced. You know, she talked about Susan Fowler, and you know, so I was at one of the better companies, but it still invades the culture.
Yeah. I believe it.
Yeah, I've just started listening to a book. It's called Winners Take All, and it's a real deep dive into tech and how tech is trying to fix a lot of our big social problems, but at the same time, it's like, well, are they really the right ones to try and do that? And it's a big topic, but you know, everyone just thinks, oh, tech, high tech, oh, this is wonderful, and all these great platitudes and everything. But starting to learn a little bit more about in that world, there's a lot of, I don't know, dark side, I guess is the best way to put it, to all that.
Yeah, well, and I mean, you just look at the recent controversy with the ethicist who was fired from Google. I can't remember her name. I don't know if any of you
Is
saw.
it Timnit, or I'm sorry, I could be totally wrong. Like something along those lines.
I don't remember her name at all, but yeah, I mean, they hired her to help create a more diverse environment and like push back on their policies, and then they fired her for doing what they hired her to do, basically.
I didn't know that story. I'm gonna have to look that one up.
Yeah, it's been in the news like maybe a couple weeks ago, or maybe even longer. I don't know. Like you said, time bleeds together in well, now 2021, but you know,
it's crazy.
Yeah. So like, I mean, my impression is that a lot of these companies want to change their cultures, but they don't know how.
Thanks, Michael.
Thanks, Michael.
You're welcome. I assume you're saying thanks for the link and not my son doing jumping jacks in the
That too.
background.
Ryan, you're killing it. I love it.
We say.
Thanks.
I know people are always apologizing for like their kids and pets, but to me, that's the best part about working from home. Like a random dog or cat or kids running around in the background. I love it.
Good. Yeah, I think like good doses, you know, like
Yeah, if you all see me laughing, I'm laughing at Michael's kid and not laughing at you.
Yeah, like we just moved and
Like a year ago? Over a year ago.
yes,
But it feels like
I
yesterday.
have friends nearby.
Remember, Michael, time is
I
bleeding
get kind of
together.
alone sometimes, so I go hanging out with Dad, but he's usually on a meeting. Go try to hang out with Reagan during schoolwork, hang on a meeting, or sleeping in bed. My mom not feeling well.
Oh, so funny.
Yeah, the other book I've been reading recently, which is a lot more uplifting and enjoyable, which is Michelle Obama's book.
Yeah.
I'm meaning to read that.
Great. Yeah, I did again the audiobook, which she reads herself. So
yeah, that would good. That one I'm reading in print. So that one's on the bedside table. A little bit of that every night, just something to not look at a phone or not think about the news or anything. And even though it's her life and political, her political whatever, it's a neat story. It's good stuff.
I do enjoy the author read audiobooks. I think those are pretty cool.
Yeah.
I think most of the audiobooks I've gotten recently are author read, not, that I picked those out specifically, but,
Yeah. It's more common with like nonfiction books, I find, that the author reads them. So
I guess that says that I've been reading a lot more nonfiction.
yeah.
Maybe my life could use a little fiction. I think
Always.
I tend to stick with the nonfiction, and then unless I get on like a spree. So a few years back, my friend got me started on the Song of Ice and Fire, Game of Thrones series, basically, and blazed through that one in like 2 years. So
Nice.
Yeah.
I've been listening to Brandon Sanderson lately.
I hear amazing things about him, just all the good things, really.
All the good things. I would agree.
Nice.
Really great author.
So Wheel of Time, right? Is that his?
I don't remember.
Okay.
Sorry, it's hard not to laugh.
It's totally okay.
We're not
as long
laughing
as
at
you're
you.
entertained, that's the
We're
important
laughing with
thing.
you.
Huh?
I said we're not laughing at you, we're laughing with you.
Yeah, thank you.
The more we laugh, the more he does, but I can't help myself.
Now we need a future appearance so we can see the new glasses.
Right, for sure. Oh, we'll have to. Maybe next week he'll have to pop in and show you the glasses. What do you think? Yeah, you want to do that? All right. Well, next week, T and Tech, it's a date.
Did you pick out a style for him?
Yeah. I was not present for the glasses selection.
I was gonna say you guys should match.
What is happening? But I feel confident that he will choose a very stylish pair. Mom assisted with the glasses selection, so there's
There
that
you go.
too. Yeah, she's just very stylish as well, so I'm not concerned. Oh man, now I went blurry. They just can't see us anymore, bud. That's all there is to it.
Peter needs glasses.
Yeah, exactly.
Mine are navy blue. They're navy
Classic.
blue, and they make me look smart.
Mine don't make me look any smarter, Ryan. I don't know why.
It's because you couldn't look any smarter, Heather.
Right. I'm sure
I
that's
think I need a few pairs.
Well, friends, I should probably get some food for my family and prevent him from, totally taking over my life. Well, no, that's done. That's all done. I can't stop that. But, all right, stop for now. You're gonna choke. I can tell.
Well, thank you.
Thank you guys so much for having me and listening to me talk. It was great to meet all of you.
It was fantastic, Heather. You did a wonderful job. I appreciate everyone who joined. It's been a lot of fun.
Thank you so much, Heather. Yeah.
Yeah, this was
So-
great.
Thanks, Heather.
Good times.
Any parting words or anything?
Have a great Friday and weekend, guys.
Yeah, you too.
Send me the video call.
I'll send you the YouTube link. Okay.
Awesome.
All right.
Oh boy.
Bye all. Have a great
Bye.
night.
Good one, everybody.
Yeah.
See ya.
Bye.